The little girl looked up at me one evening while I was helping her with homework and asked me something I wasn't ready for. She said, "Is it okay if I call you Daddy?" I had to walk to the bathroom so she wouldn't see me cry. 3 months later, I was sitting in my car in a parking lot, listening through an open window as that same girl told her friend on the phone that I was so stupid and easy to control. And then she said it was all her mother's idea. The wedding was 23 days away. Today I'm going to tell you everything. The love I thought was real. The family I thought I was building. And the single overheard conversation that made me cancel all of it. I'm Daniel. And this is my story. I've been sitting with this for 2 weeks and I need to put it somewhere outside of my own head. So here it is. My name is Daniel. I'm 38. Was 3 weeks away from marrying a woman named Christine, 36, a widow with 2 children, a daughter named Avery, 13, and a son named Noah, 7. I want to start by saying something clearly. I went into this relationship with my eyes open. Christine was upfront from the first date that she had children, that her husband had passed away 2 years prior from a sudden illness, and that any man in her life would need to understand that her kids came first. I respected that. I more than respected it, I admired it. A mother who loves her children that fiercely is someone worth knowing. I also want to say that I genuinely, completely, without reservation loved those kids. Not in a performed way. Not in a, "I'm doing this to get the woman" way. I love children. I always have. I come from a big family, I'm close with my nieces and nephews, and the moment I met Avery and Noah I felt something real click into place. These were kids I wanted to know. Kids I wanted to help raise. Kids I wanted to be there for. That was not fake. Whatever else I'm about to tell you, that part was never fake. Christine and I met at a mutual friend's dinner party about 18 months ago. She was quiet that evening, careful, I think, in the way people are when they've been through something heavy and are just starting to re-enter the world. We talked for most of the evening. She was smart and funny and honest in a way I don't always encounter. She told me about her husband, James, matter-of-factly, without performing grief. She said, "I had a good marriage. I lost it. I'm still figuring out what comes next." I thought that was one of the bravest things I'd ever heard someone say out loud to a stranger. We started dating about 6 weeks later. She introduced me to the kids after about 4 months, which I thought showed good judgment. She didn't rush it, didn't use them to test my feelings, didn't make it a performance. She simply said one Sunday, "I'd like you to meet them, if you're ready." I was ready. Avery was 12 at the time. Quiet, guarded, watchful, which made complete sense. She'd lost her father. She was not going to hand her trust to a stranger in an afternoon. I respected that and I told her so, directly, "You don't have to like me right away. That's completely okay. I'm going to be around and I hope we figure each other out gradually." She looked at me for a long moment and said, "Okay." And we left it there. Noah was 6. Noah did not have his sister's caution. Noah decided within approximately 11 minutes that I was his new best friend, handed me a broken toy car, and asked if I knew how to fix it. I did not know how to fix it, but I sat on the floor with him for 45 minutes trying, which apparently was sufficient to earn his permanent loyalty. Over the following months, I showed up. That's the only way I know how to say it. I showed up consistently, enthusiastically, and without conditions. I helped Avery with her science project at 10 p.m. on a school night when Christine was sick. I drove Noah to his soccer games every Saturday even when it rained. I learned which brand of mac and cheese Noah would eat versus which brand caused him to act like he was being personally wronged. I remembered Avery's favorite book series and surprised her with the newest volume on her birthday. I fixed things in Christine's apartment that had been broken since before James died because no one had gotten around to them. I did all of this because I wanted to. Not because I was trying to earn something. Because this was the family I was choosing and I wanted them to feel that choice in every way I could show it. About 8 months in, Christine and I had a conversation about the future. We both knew where this was heading. I told her I was serious, that I wanted to build a life together, and that I intended to be a real father to her children, not a replacement for James, not a stepfather in the distant, obligatory sense, but a genuine present consistent loving parent. She cried. She told me she hadn't allowed herself to hope for something like this. About 2 months after that conversation, I was helping Avery with homework at the kitchen table, algebra, which she found frustrating, and I found an opportunity to sit with her through frustration rather than fix it for her, when she put her pencil down and looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read. "Daniel," she said. Would it be weird if I called you Daddy?" I want to be accurate about what happened in my body when she said that. Something cracked open. That is the only way I can describe it. Not painfully, just the way a window cracks open and suddenly there's air in a room that had been closed for a long time. I told her it would not be weird. I told her it would mean the world to me. I excused myself to the bathroom for about 3 minutes and stood at the sink and got myself together. Noah, who required zero emotional processing and maximum immediacy in all things, had already been calling me Daddy for about 6 weeks by that point. He had simply decided one day and announced it, and that was that. But Avery choosing it, Avery, who had been so careful, so guarded, felt different. It felt like a door opening that I didn't know I'd been waiting in front of. I came back to the kitchen. We finished the algebra. I made them both grilled cheese for dinner. Christine and I got engaged 4 months later. The wedding was set for late October. Small ceremony, 30 people, the venue Christine had quietly dreamed about. I paid for most of it without being asked because I wanted to and because I could and because seeing her happy was its own category of reward. Avery was going to be a junior bridesmaid. Noah was going to be the ring bearer. I had already talked to a lawyer about beginning formal adoption proceedings after the wedding, not to erase James, never that, but to give both kids my name if they ever wanted it, and to make my legal relationship to them as real as the actual one. 23 days before the wedding, I came home from a run earlier than expected. Christine was out grocery shopping. The kids were home, Avery upstairs, Noah in the living room watching cartoons. I came in through the back door, still catching my breath, and I heard Avery's voice through the ceiling. She was on her phone in her room. The vent in the hallway carries sound from upstairs in that particular way old houses do. I'd noticed it before but never had reason to pay attention. I paid attention that afternoon. I want to be careful here about what I report because I was only hearing one side of the conversation and I was processing it in real time while standing in a hallway after a run. But I heard enough. I heard Avery laughing, not her normal laugh, something older and sharper, and saying, "He literally buys whatever I want if I make the right face. He's so easy." I stopped moving. "I know, it's kind of pathetic," she said. "Like, he actually cried when I asked him the daddy thing. Mom said it would work but I didn't think it would work that fast." I stood in that hallway for a long time. There was more. Something about how he, meaning me, was too dumb to figure it out. Something about how her mom had told her that men like me needed to feel needed and that was how you keep them interested. Something about the wedding gifts they were expecting. I didn't absorb all of it. I was standing in a hallway with my hand on the wall because my legs had gone strange. Then, yeah, Mom planned the whole thing basically. She says once they're married it's way harder for him to leave. That's the whole point. I walked out the back door. I sat on the back step. Noah came to the screen door after a few minutes and said, "Daddy, do you want to watch cartoons?" And I told him yes in a minute, "Buddy, just give me a second." I sat there for a long time. I did not confront Christine that night. Or the next day. I needed to think. And I needed to be honest with myself about what I had heard and what it meant. Here is what I kept returning to, a 13-year-old girl saying things on the phone to her friend that were cruel and calculated. How much of that is a 13-year-old performing for her friend, being mean in the way that young teens sometimes are, exaggerating for effect? How much of it is real? But then, Mom said it would work. Mom planned the whole thing. Once they're married, it's harder for him to leave. A 13-year-old does not construct that analysis on her own. A 13-year-old does not use the phrase, once they're married it's harder to leave, unless someone older has said it to her in a context where it made sense. Children echo what they absorb. What Avery had absorbed was a strategy. I called my brother that night after the kids were in bed and Christine was watching TV. I sat in my car in the driveway and I told him everything. He listened without interrupting, which is why I call him when things are serious. When I finished, he said, "What are you going to do?" I said I didn't know yet. He said, "What does your gut say?" I said my gut said the woman I loved, or the woman I thought I loved, had been managing me. Deliberately. With her daughter as a participant. And that the person I had been in this relationship was not a man being loved. He was a mark. My brother was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "I think you already know what you have to do." I spent 4 days watching. I want to be fair. I want to be thorough. So I watched. I watched Christine in moments when she didn't know I was paying close attention. I watched how she spoke to Avery versus how she spoke to me about Avery. I noticed, for the first time, the particular way Christine would deploy the kids in conversations, mentioning something one of them needed right after I had raised a concern about money, or about the timeline of something. I noticed how Avery, around me, performed warmth with a precision that I had previously read as growth and trust building but now looked different in a way I couldn't unfeel. I noticed that Noah, 7-year-old, uncomplicated, incapable of strategy, was exactly the same as he had always been. Loud. Affectionate. Demanding of attention in the specific way small boys are when they've decided you belong to them. There was nothing calculated in Noah. There never had been. That made everything harder. On the 5th day, I sat Christine down after the kids were asleep and I told her what I had heard. She went pale. Her first response was not denial, which told me something. It was damage control. She said Avery was a teenager who exaggerated things. She said whatever Avery had said on the phone wasn't what it sounded like. She said I was misinterpreting. I told her I had heard the words, "Once they're married it's harder for him to leave." She stopped talking. The silence lasted a long time. Then she said, "I was scared, Daniel. I was scared you'd leave like everyone else does. I needed to know this was real." I told her I understood fear. I told her I understood what losing someone does to a person's ability to trust. I told her that none of that, not a single piece of it, justified using her 13-year-old daughter as an instrument in a calculated strategy to secure a man's commitment. She started to cry. And here is the most painful part of what I have to tell you, I am not certain the tears were real. I do not know anymore. That is the thing about discovering that someone has been performing for you. You cannot go back and identify which moments were real and which were the performance. Everything becomes uncertain. Every memory gets a question mark placed next to it. I slept at my brother's that night. Over the following week I cancelled everything. The venue. The caterer. The florist. The invitations that had already gone out. I made the calls. Most vendors were reasonable given the circumstances. One was not, and I paid the cancellation fee without argument because I just wanted it to be done. I returned Christine's engagement ring in a box with a letter. The letter was not cruel. I did not accuse her of being a terrible person. I said I had loved what I believed us to be, and I was not able to marry someone whose love for me I could no longer trust as unmanipulated. I said I wished her and her children well. I meant it. I did not say anything to Avery directly. I thought about it. I decided it was not my place. She is 13, she is her mother's child, and whatever she has become is in large part a product of what she has been taught. I do not hold 13-year-olds to the same standard I hold adults. But I also cannot pretend the wound isn't there. Noah I have not seen since the night before I confronted Christine. He does not know what happened. He knows I have stopped coming over. Christine texted me once to say he keeps asking for me. I have not responded to that text. I have read it probably 40 times. This is the part one cannot resolve. Noah did nothing. Noah was exactly who he appeared to be, every single day. He called me daddy because he meant it and for no other reason. He is 7 years old and the people he trusted, his mother, his sister, were operating in ways he had no knowledge of and no control over. And I am the one who left. I know I had no legal standing. We weren't married. He was never formally mine. There is no framework in which I could have stayed in that little boy's life without staying in Christine's, and staying in Christine's life was something I could not do. I know all of this logically. It does not stop me from seeing his face when he said, "Daddy, do you want to watch cartoons?" And I said yes in a minute, buddy. That was the last thing I said to him. My friends are divided. Half of them say I did the only thing I could do and that trying to hold a relationship together after a betrayal that structural would have been a slow disaster. The other half, mostly the ones with children, look at me when I mention Noah and say nothing, which is its own kind of answer. I have been to 3 therapy sessions since the cancellation. My therapist is helping me sit with the ambiguity of a situation where the right decision and the painful decision are the same decision. I have thought about reaching out to Christine to ask about a continued relationship with Noah, not romantically, not co-parenting in any formal sense, just being present in a little boy's life who called me daddy and meant it. My therapist says this is worth exploring. My brother says it is worth exploring. My own heart says it is worth exploring. My brain says, you cannot separate Noah from Christine, and Christine is someone who used her children as instruments. Any access to Noah runs through Christine. And trusting Christine is something I do not know how to do anymore. So for now I am here, in my apartment, at 11 p.m., writing this out for strangers because the people in my life have heard it enough. I do not regret leaving. I regret what made leaving necessary. I miss Noah every single day. Several people have asked if I've considered sending Noah a gift or card through a mutual friend rather than going through Christine. I hadn't thought of that angle and I'm genuinely considering it. Someone asked if I ever confronted Avery. I didn't. She's 13. Her mother shaped her. I'm not going to look a child in the eyes and tell her I know what she did. That's Christine's responsibility. Someone asked if I think Christine actually loved me at all. I've thought about that question every day for 2 weeks. And my honest answer is, I don't know. I think she may have started something calculated and then found something real somewhere in the middle of it. I think those two things can exist at the same time in a person. I think that's actually what makes it so hard to simply be angry. But I also know this, love that began as a strategy, even if it became real, was built on a foundation I cannot stand on. I hope she figures out how to love someone without engineering it. I hope Noah gets exactly the life he deserves. He's 7 years old. He still has time to become whoever he's going to be. I just won't be there to see it. And that is the part that breaks me. Daniel gave everything he had, his time, his money, his heart, and his tears, to a family he believed chose him back. He fixed the broken toys. He drove to the soccer games. He learned the right brand of mac and cheese. He cried in a bathroom because a little girl asked to call him daddy. And none of it was what it looked like. He walked away from Christine. He walked away from Avery. But the one he can't stop thinking about is a 7-year-old boy who had no part in any of it, who called him daddy because he simply meant it. So, jury, did Daniel make the right call canceling the wedding the moment he heard the truth? Or should he have stayed and fought for Noah, even if it meant staying in a relationship built on deception? And the question that has no clean answer, when the innocent child and the guilty mother are the same package, what does a good man do? The floor is yours. Drop your verdict in the comments below.